ربي حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير ثم الصلاة والسلام على البشير النذير والسراج المنير أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين وعلى من والاهم إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters, those who are present in person and those who are following us online. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Ali Imran verse 31 says, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهِ فَاتَّبِعُونِ يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهِ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. O Prophet, tell them that if you have this true and transcendental, meaningful and mature love towards this being, we call this being Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, the cherisher, the nurturer of every creature in this world. If you have this true love, then show it by following the footsteps and the pathway and the life and the lifestyle of the Prophet. In this way, you will be exposed to mercy, compassion, and forgiveness. We are blessed again to witness Muharram al-Haram and the event of Ashura, obviously this year in a different format. But whether we are faced with diseases, difficulties, different tribulations, we will commemorate and remember the legacy of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because it's a universal, humanistic, virtuous legacy in which we revive ourselves and we remind ourselves of our purpose for existence. The topic I've chosen for this year, which I'll be spending tonight and another 2 nights, I've titled it The Art of Loving, which I've used this title from the book by Professor Erich Fromm, the famous social psychologist back in 60s and 70s, where he authored many books, including The Art of Living, The Art of Loving, and the concept of being and having. This year I want to focus on the notion of the art of loving. When we look at the story of Imam Hussein, we see this is a story where it's all about sacrifice and giving. Nothing can explain it except the notion of love, which will be explaining what we mean by love, because the common discourse and the popular culture and the music industry and the movie industry has taught us a different concept and a different definition of love. That's why it's not anymore something sacred. While Quran says that your love will bring you a flourishing life. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِ. So tonight I'll be spending the introduction just to define what we mean by the art of loving and the issues that the society is facing. And then I'll be talking about how this art of love is represented in the story of Adam and Hawa, Adam and his wife, in the Holy Quran, and how it is an answer to our existential problems. And I would like you to engage with me in this conversation. Whether you are online, please follow the thread and put comments. So the first question we want to answer is love an art? or love is something different. So when we say love is an art, so there are two possibilities here. One, we say love is an art. What does it mean? When something is an art, it requires effort and knowledge. It means you need to be a learner. So that's the first definition. In a nutshell, we will come back and review it later on. But the common discourse tells us love is an accident. If you're lucky, you will find the object of your love and then you fall into love. That is the common discourse. If you are unfortunate or if you don't have the luck, then you don't find the object of your love and then you cannot fall into love. So it is about being fortunate and lucky and being unfortunate and unlucky. What do you think? Do you think love is an art or love is a luck-dependent situation that we live? If you're lucky, you find it. Please think about it. If you like, share your comments. And we want to have this open dialogue for the next 3 nights. The position that I want to take is that love is an art. Let me read from the book, The Art of Loving. The author says, this book wants to convince the reader that all his attempts for love are bound to fail unless he tries most actively to develop his total personality. So as to achieve a productive orientation, that satisfaction in individual love cannot be attained without the capacity to love one's neighbor, without true humility, courage, faith, and discipline. In a culture in which these qualities, humility, courage, faith, and discipline, are rare, the attainment of the capacity to love must remain a rare achievement. My dear brothers and sisters, I'll be trying to advocate and encourage you to see the notion of love, which I will explain. It is the answer to our problems and issues in life, to take love as an art and gain knowledge and put your efforts in order to develop that quality within you. But let's answer another question here. Why is the common discourse that we are facing in the popular culture takes love as an accident, as a matter of luck? 3 possible answers. You provide your answer as well. Why is that the situation? Number 1, most of us try to be loved. We want to be loved rather than being loving, meaning having a capacity to love. What's the difference? When you want to be loved, you try to act in a lovable manner. For males, you try to show that you have success in your life. You are powerful. You have this sense of masculinity. You have money, wealth, you're rich. For females, it's mostly trying to be attractive. You try to dress up. You try to take care of your body, in which to be lovable, not to be a loving personality. So as a result, the popular culture, who is a lovable person? Someone who is popular and someone who has a sex appeal. Then this person becomes a lovable person. So that's the first issue. Second, we see love as a problem of object, not a function. What do I mean by that? All of us say, if I find the right person, then I will love them. So the problem is not that I cannot love, because love is simple. Rather, I cannot find the right person to love. And as a result, you have in the modern culture the notion of romantic love, in which it's about the personal experience. If I find the right person, which we said needs to be lovable, needs to have those popular, common discourse attributes, then I will love them. That's why nowadays, if you want to get married, it is about the what we may call personality market. What type of personality traits are popular in the market? As if you're going to a shopping. So you look at the windows, okay, the personality which are popular, for example, if you have a nice profile on TikTok, you are sharing nice videos on the social media, so that's the personality market nowadays. If you're a male, then let's say you have cool friends, you share pictures with Argile, so on and so forth, you show that you have these personality traits. If you're a female, then you try to exhibit as if it's a culture of exhibition. You try to exhibit your dress code, you try to exhibit your facial features, you try to exhibit that you have this lovable nature. And as a result, it becomes as if you're going to Westfield or Stockland. You go by windows, you see what's the popular in the shopping center, and then you pick your interest. Let's say in the past, males who were very masculine and aggressive, that was popular in the market. Now, males who are softies and who have this gentleness to them, that's popular in the market. So you can see this transition in the societal trend whereby these traits are being advocated. So that's the second problem, where the problem is in the object, not the function of love. So if I find in the shopping center this object with the qualities of the market, then I will choose them. The third issue is the semantic, the language that we use. The language that we use affects how we perceive the world. We always say falling in love, as if love is something that you fall into it and that's it, you don't grow out of it. Because even the language is about falling, not standing, as opposed to what we may say as standing in love. You stand in love, like Imam Hussein and his companions did. They did not simply fall, they stood up. They stood up for a cause, they stood up for a right. So these are the three issues which has changed the notion of love from being an art to be something of accident and chance. You may say this is abstract. You may say this is theoretical. What are you talking about? My dear brothers and sisters, let us look at some of the statistics in the society. Let's see how, here we're talking about the Western society because we're living in that society, how Western society is facing a civilizational challenge, a destruction, a collapse. Let me talk to you about 3 areas where I will provide some statistics. Number 1, let's look at the rate of divorce in the Australian context. In the Australian context, the median age in 2018 for marriage for males was 29 and for females was 27. But you know the rate of divorce. On average, after 12 to 13 years, Australian couples end up in divorce. The average age for males was 46 and for females was 43. In other words, in 2017 there was 113,000 marriages registered in Australia. Here we're talking about marriage between male and female. 40,000 divorces was registered on that year as well. Again, in other words, it means 1 in 3 marriages end up in divorce. This is something astonishing. So that's number 1. But you know how much we spend on the weddings? According to the Australian Wedding Industry Report in 2018, average wedding cost, this is average, if you're like, you don't have anything to spend, the average wedding cost was $31,000. That's the average, $31,000. This is the problem. When love is not an art, it's all about commodities. It's the culture of market. Because I want to spend on the wedding dress, on the wedding hall, on the photography, so on and so forth. So the average cost is about $31,000. It's not about the art of loving. So that's the first area our society is facing. Second, let's look at domestic violence. So families is still functioning as a family externally, but inside they're suffering from domestic violence. And the statistics is again, it's very scary. We think we're living in a developed country whereby we are privileged with technology, modernity and advancement. But you know, in 2018, one female was killed every 9 days in a family by her partner, by her husband. One female every 9 days. And one male every 29 days. This is scary. A family every 9 days, one female in Australia being killed due to domestic violence. 1/6 of females in New South Wales experience domestic violence in terms of physical, sexual abuse. They experience it on a yearly basis. 1/6 of the families. And 25% of the females experience emotional abuse. My dear brothers and sisters, this is not a family anymore. A family whereby 1/4 of the families in Australia experience abuse. 1 in 9 females, one female every 9 days being killed by her partner. This is not a family anymore. Let me take you to another stage. You may say that I don't know what you're talking about because I'm not married. I will choose differently to what other popular culture is choosing. Let's talk about the concept of bullying. Bullying and harassment in Australian workplace. Australia in 2018 was the had the sixth highest rate of workplace harassment compared to 34 countries, European countries. So we are really high in terms of workplace harassment. When we talk about harassment, we mean here either verbal, either emotional, sexual, and so on and so forth. My question to you is our society experiencing a situation of love or a situation of hatred and animosity? Is this where we have domestic violence, where we have divorce, where we have harassment and abuse? Is this the language of love, or this is the language of hatred? As you can see how important and pertinent this topic is to our daily life. It is about our everyday experience. As a result, I will propose the solution to this problem is to acknowledge love as an art. As a result, to learn an art, to be a painter, to be a doctor, you need to have two things. You need to master the theory, and then you need to master the practice. And then you can develop an art. So in the next 2 nights, we'll be talking about the theory in which we can develop and gain and attain the art of loving through studying the life of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and his companions. But do you know why no one bothers to learn about it? You know, because the things that we are looking for in our life is money and prestige. Love as an art brings no money, no prestige, because it feeds and nurtures the soul. But the common discourse, unfortunately, is the language of money and prestige. Now, to explore this topic after we provided this introduction, in which now we have to appreciate and agree that love is an art, before entering into the nitty-gritty details of this, we need to have a theory about human being. What is man in life? What is the theory of human being from a Quranic perspective? Obviously, this is a different topic, but we need the basics in order to understand the language of love. In Islam, there is a creator and there is a hereafter. The man is gifted with two proofs. One is the reason and the other one the prophets. And through using the two faculties, he is supposed to reach proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a flourishing life in this life and hereafter. So this is in a nutshell the theory of human being from an Islamic perspective. And that's why in Quran it's actually a good topic for you to look. What are the positive traits of a good human in Quran? When I look, there are 14 traits. Like you can become Khalifatullah. You become the representative of Allah on this earth. But also there are some negative traits that you may attain. So either you go on the positive trajectory or you go on the negative trajectory. Like Zaluman Jahula. That you can be an oppressor. You can be an ignorant person. To understand this, we need to read the story of Adam in the Holy Quran. If you have Quran, bring Surah Al-A'raf verses 19 to 22 in order to understand why we are studying love as an art. So Surah Al-A'raf verse 19, وَيَا آدَمُ اسْكُنْ أَنْتَ وَزَوْجُكَ الْجَنَّةِ. Allah, I'm not going to read the Arabic part just because of the time constraint. But verses 19 to 22. Then the Lord said, Adam, stay in the garden with your spouse and eat whatever you want therein, but do not go near this tree. You will be among the transgressors. Then Satan tempted them to reveal that which was kept private from them, and said, your Lord has not prohibited you to eat the fruits of this tree unless you want to be angels or immortal. Then Satan swore before them that he was giving them good advice. وَقَاسَمَهُمَا إِنِّي لَكُمَا لَمِنَ النَّاصِحِينَ. Thus, he deceitfully, Satan, Shaitan, showed them the tree. When they had tasted the fruits from the tree, their private parts became revealed to them. And they began to cover their private parts with leaves from the garden. Their Lord then called out to them, saying, did I not forbid you to eat fruits from the tree and tell you that Satan was your sworn enemy? You know, this story is not simply about saying that you ate from the fruits and now your private parts are shown. This is saying that in our primary existence, we were one. The male and the female were living in a union. As a result of eating from the tree of knowledge, they became aware of the differences. They became aware that they are separate. They became aware that they are different entities. And you know what happens when we become aware that I'm separate to you, I'm a different human being, then you become aware that I may die in the near future while my loved ones are still alive. You become aware that this life is transitory, that I have a limited time on this planet, and then you become aware that you're separate to others. Then you become aware that you're alone. And you know what loneliness brings about? It brings anxiety. It brings shame. It brings guilt. It brings a sense of frustration. As human beings, we are afflicted with loneliness. That's why in modern culture, because it is a natural instinct, Quran tells us, Quran through this story tells us, we suffer from the anxiety of loneliness. You know what happens in the modern culture? In order to forget this loneliness, we resort to violence, we resort to alcoholism, we resort to drugs, we resort going to the clubs, we resort to pornography. Why? We resort to the culture of entertainment. You know, in the last few months, in the last 6 to 8 weeks, 30% increase in the hospital admission in Victoria because of self-harm and suicide, because of the lockdown. You know what that means? I'm not looking at this from a medical perspective. I'm looking at this from a philosophical perspective. When you go in lockdown, you are deprived of the entertainment industry, where you used to go out, you spend time with friends, clubbing, drugs, so on and so forth. And the reason I'm using these terms so freely is not because we're not afflicted. Muslim community is afflicted as well with such vices. It's not something that we are immune. So we need to talk about pornography, drugs, clubbing. We are afflicted. And its topic needs to be addressed. So we see in the Victorian case, because these people were deprived of the entertainment culture, now they realize the loneliness, the separateness, and the anxiety took over them. What's the point of life? What's the purpose of life? Because they don't have this sense of love being as an art. Now if you look at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, you see two characters beautifully showing us love as an art and love as an accident. One is Umar ibn Sa'd, and the other one is Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. You look at Umar ibn Sa'd, he sees the love of this world because he has fallen into love with this world. He wants mulk Ray. He wants to rule over Ray. He wants the money. He wants the wealth. Put it in the modern context, it is, we want different commodities. We want prestige. We want cars which revs really well. We want different type of makeups. We want to be famous and popular on different social media platforms. This is Umar ibn Sa'd. In the story of Imam Hussein, Umar ibn Sa'd is someone who sees love as an accident, as a chance. So he wants to be fortunate. Look at the other side of the story. Hurr ibn Yazid tells us love is an art. You need to stand. You need to stand up. You need to appreciate. You need to give. You need to sacrifice. That's why Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, he gives up. And you know, the story is very interesting. Hurr is the one who is the cause of Imam al-Hussein being blocked in Karbala. But then the climax of the story is, he's the first one to be martyred on the cause that Imam al-Hussein was advocating for. It is such a, even in the Greek mythologies, when we look, such a story is rare, but we have personified, and we have a real story in which someone realized the art of life, art of loving, and he stood up. And that's why Imam al-Hussein says, أَلَا تَرَوْنَ أَنَّ الْحَقَّ لَا يُعْمَلُ بِهِ. Don't you see that no one cares about the truth? You look at the society and the vices. وَأَنَّ الْبَاطِلَ لَا يَتَنَاهَى عَنْهُ. And no one cares. No one cares about the falsehood which is prevalent in the society. Don't worry about society, look at your family. Are you suffering from domestic violence? Are you suffering from lack of attention to your kids and family members? How much time do you spend together? يَرْغَبُ الْمُؤْمِنُ فِي لِقَاءِ اللَّهِ مُحِقًّا. So if that's the case, let the real mu'min, a real faithful person, to put his heart or her heart in order to achieve and sail towards the God's realm and towards the love of God. فإني لا أرى الموت إلا سعادة ولا الحياة مع الظالمين إلا برما. In this situation, I do not see death except a happiness, a meaningful happiness. And the life with the oppressor, a disgrace, because the art of loving tells us that life is worthy of living. Life is worthy of living if virtues, if justice, if beauty, if love is there. And if it's not there, there is no point in it. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.